Today, we're looking at the biggest Dynasty Fantasy Football risers and followers from the NFL Combine, starting off with Trey Benson, who ran a 4.39 40-yard dash, weighed in great, and finished with a 9.78 RAS. Now, why this is so important is we've been looking for a running back to separate themselves all offseason, and the Combine was exactly where that was going to come into play. Now, Benson may have just vaulted himself up into the running back 2, possibly running back 1 category with that display. Now, the reason why is you want your running backs to be fast, you want them to be athletic, and you want them to be able to carry a 3-down workload at the next level, which is exactly what Benson displayed, running that great 40 time, measuring in with a great height and weight, and hitting a fantastic RAS 9.78. Now, personally, I'm still putting him as my running back 2 behind Jonathan Brooks because I don't want to take away anything from Brooks. He came into the Combine and we knew he wasn't going to test. Is coming off that ACL injury. So I don't really think it's fair to bump him down because of something he didn't do when we knew that was the case all offseason. And Benson, sure, it would be another story if he was a fantastic prospect. Before the Combine, he had a otherworldly Combine. He had a good Combine. He's a riser. But it's not like he went out there and shocked the world with these measurements. They're good measurements. They're not unbelievable measurements. So he's going to be my RB2 right now. Jonathan Brooks just looks better as a player. Now, a lot of things I've seen when looking at Trey Benson is, one, his vision at times is god-awful. He cannot hit a hole to save his life. And I've been looking at some games. I've been looking around Twitter doing some more research. And I've been seeing a lot of Florida State fans saying that Benson was coming off the field at very crucial times last year, which is a massive red flag. He looked pretty good catching the ball. He has a pretty good yards per reception rate with 11.56, fourth among running backs, which we've gone to a study. Actually, Dynasty Domain did, and it is highly predictive at finding future NFL successful running backs. So love that there. Just the issue is how well is he going to develop in the NFL? While I feel a lot better about Benson because of this great combine performance, he's going to go higher in the NFL draft. He's probably going to go to a better team because a team that needs a running back is going to like what they see from him and at least think they can develop him, which is everything in the modern day NFL. Sure, you have a few guys like Bijan Robinson, Saquon Barkley coming out of college where they're just such great talents that they're going to be successful no matter what. But in this modern day and age, running backs need a good situation, a good offense, a good line, and to be in a good schematic fit to find success. So I think Benson has the tools. He just needs to find himself in the right situation now. And I believe because of that combine, he is going to do so. Now, let's go over to a wide receiver in Brian Thomas Jr. Now, I really wasn't on Brian Thomas Jr. coming into the offseason, but I've done a lot more research on him. I've watched some tape, and I am really, really high on Brian Thomas Jr. The main reason I like Thomas was because he looked great at LSU. He showed he could play that wide receiver 2 role. And I'm sitting here thinking, okay, Brian Thomas is probably going to be a back-end first-round pick. Maybe he goes to the Chiefs. Maybe he goes to the Bills. Maybe he goes to the Ravens, and he can play alongside any of these guys. And I'm not concerned because we already have seen that he can put up fantastic production while playing next to Malik Nabers, who is arguably going to be one of the better NFL wide receivers the moment he steps on off field. The issue I had with Brian Thomas Jr. is, okay, does that mean he has a cap ceiling? Is his upside capped? Can he actually be a wide receiver 1 at the next level? And I think a lot of that's going to come down to his upside, and in that comes his production and athletic profile. Now, his 40-yard dash time was a 4.33. That is phenomenal considering he weighed in at 209 pounds. I mean, think about it. Obviously, you have Xavier Worthy going and running a 4.21, but he weighed in at 165 pounds. The difference is massive, and Brian Thomas Jr. had Worthy not broken the record, had he not, just gone crazy with that 40-yard dash, he would have easily been the talk of the combine, but instead he's gone a little under the radar because obviously when you got a guy breaking the record, you're going to talk about that. Brian Thomas Jr. measures in great and finishes with an RAS of 9.97, which if you thought Trey Benson's was good, this is almost near a perfect 10 score. So I am super high on Brian Thomas Jr. I think he can be a great wide receiver 2, maybe to start his career. And after seeing his athletic profile, I have confidence that he can become a true, legit alpha wide receiver 1 later down the road. Now, the last riser we have on this list is running back Jaylen Wright. who I'll admit, leading up to the combine, I didn't know a whole lot about him, but I saw some buzz on Twitter, and, I went back, I was like, okay, who is this Jaylen Wright kid? Knew a little bit about him, but after watching his tape, seeing that 22-mile-per-hour GPS run against Georgia, I was sold because I really want a guy that hopefully is going to have a good weight, good size, and is also going to hit that top-end speed, which is so important to NFL teams nowadays. They want that home run hitting running back, which is going to give them great draft capital and also give them a ton of upside in fantasy football leagues. But he came into the combine, ran a 4.33 40, and more importantly, measured in at 210 pounds. Second fastest 40 among running backs. Obviously, Isaac Guerrero had a 4.33, but Jaylen Wright was fantastic. Finished with a 9.82 RAS. And like we talked about, that is super, super important for NFL teams. They want these fast, athletic running backs, and also fantasy football in order to carry a workload at a big size. You want them to be that 3-down bell callback, and you also want them to be fast to give them that upside. Now, for the fallers, we're going to go with Bucky Irving, who may be completely off my draft board after this. Runs a 4.55 40, 3.71 RAS, and weighs in at 192 pounds. He's a smaller guy, and he's not fast, which we've seen is a recipe for disaster at the NFL level, barring a few exceptions, obviously, of Kyren Williams last year. But we're not going to chase these outliers, especially when it's a guy who we don't really love the production profile in the first place. Now, the thing is, with these small backs, you need to be fast. You need to be able to catch passes. But when we talked about earlier where Trey Benson has a great yards per reception mark, Bucky Irving actually ranks at the bottom of this class, even though he had 56 catches last year. So it's just a whole lot of red flags after red flags. I really am not in on Irving. There's nothing special on his tape. And we'll pull up a stat from Flock Fantasy. There have been 122 running backs to finish an RB run above 208 pounds, but only 51 running backs that have finished an RB1 below this mark. So the odds are stacked against Irving. I don't think he's a great prospect that can overcome this. And I'm going to be out on Irving at this point, barring where he goes in the NFL draft. But let's wrap this out with one more follower, and that's going to be Audric Estime, which breaks my heart to say because leading up to the combine, I was actually just watching Estime, and I was getting really excited because he looked pretty good on film. He looked like a big 3-down back, caught the ball pretty well. He looked like he was hitting holes well and could break tackles, but he comes out, runs a 4.71 40-yard dash. I mean, that is just really bad. Obviously, the worst in his class. I mean, realistically, 4.71, I could do better than that. Okay, I probably couldn't. In fact, I actually did run the 40. It was slower. It was like 4.72 or 4.77, something like that. But still, it is not good from Estime. For NFL running back, you cannot be that slow. However, I'm not going to cross him out completely off my boards like I did with Irving because you guys can see 8.13 RAS, which is pretty solid. Obviously, it's not elite marks, but for a guy that's a faller, it does save his draft stock a little bit because he weighs in at 221 pounds. He's a power back, but the reason it's so concerning is because I want a guy that not only is he a big back, but he can actually move well for his size, which gives him good upside to be used in open space, in the pass catching game, and just has the upside to win you fantasy weeks with that big playability. I'm just worried that Estime is going to become that, player that just only runs in between the 20, Brian Robinson-esque, but doesn't score a ton of touchdowns because he's in an offense where maybe the goal line back is just better than him. I'm not sure. Estime I'd like as a prospect, so maybe he just really had a bad 40-yard time, but NFL teams aren't going to care. It's going to be very heavily dependent on his landing spot and draft capital, even more so than these other running backs. It's not going to cross him out entirely, but he definitely is a big faller from that horrific 40 time 4.71. But that's going to wrap things up. We're going to be diving into a Dynasty rookie mock draft this week and also another player prospect evaluation. You guys are going to like this one. He is a hidden gem. You guys may know about him by now, but that's going to be exciting nonetheless. But again, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys next time.